Hey, what's good, everyone? Welcome to Straight to Amp. My name is Alex, and this is part 1 of our 3rd episode. We're going to be sitting down with a good friend, Luke Jacob, for our very first interview. Following the end of the episode, we're going to have some music for you from The Boy and the Sea. Stick around.
Back like Marty and Doc Brown. Welcome to Straight to Amp. This is episode 3. My name's Brian. I'm joined, as always, with Derek, Alex. How you guys doing? Good?
Good.
What's good?
Bumpin'. It's a special episode today because we are joined by Luke from the LJT show.
Nice to be here.
Yeah? Are you sure about that?
Well, I mean, so far.
Just try to make you as comfortable as possible with this interview. So today we're going to be talking about LJT show, all the stuff that he does, everything that he's interested in, what he's doing, his influences, the kind of music he's pumping out. And then we're going to talk with him about what it's like to meet local bands, how it is to build a network connection, and how to kind of build up a band from the ground up for something that you kind of want. So hopefully you guys can dig it and get in on this and enjoy the show today. So.
Yeah. It's actually a special treat because he is our first guest on the show.
Yes, welcome for this.
This is the greatest honor of my life.
I should probably throw in a disclaimer saying that I made up the line LGT show for our agenda list. That's not actually what you call yourself.
I was surprised. I was like, LJT show. Ooh, maybe Alex knows something I don't.
You can call it. You can use that if you want
that's
to.
That's what I am. I'm the LJT show. A one-man show, yeah.
One-man show.
So, what are you call yourself? Just Luke Jacob Thiessen now, and do you have a formal band name behind there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I mean, I've been doing music in lots of different iterations for a long time. But yeah, I mean, we just did a solo show. I call myself Luke Jacob when I'm doing that. But I'm in a few bands, and yeah, I don't know. I'm actually workshopping what the solo project's going to look like right now.
Yeah. So are they? They're one of many different projects you have ongoing right now. Is it just kind of spaghetti at the wall, seeing what sticks at this point, or?
Some are more solid than others. We've been doing some work with. I'm a part of a band called The Boy and the Sea.
Yes.
And that's been going really well lately. So I kind of put the solo stuff on the back burner, as that's been like pretty successful.
I mentioned this to Derek, to actually the boys in the room, that you had that demo that came out that was played at the Jets show recently in January.
Yeah, we like. I'm not the biggest Jets fan, just like full disclosure.
But your shirt on the video said.
Yeah, the rest of the guys in the band are big Jets fans, and we wanted to do a song and a video for them. So yeah, we wrote a song about their new. I guess it's the slogan this year: "Rise Together."
Rise Together, yeah. Yeah,
wrote a song. People liked it. Made a video. Everybody was supposed to wear Jets jerseys. I just wore a shirt. It said "huge Jets fan" on it.
Nice, we'll have to get that up when it's available.
Definitely.
Or it is available.
Yeah, it's up now, yeah.
Sweet, okay.
So, then, are you just like not a hockey fan, or do you cheer for a different team?
No, that's a good distinction. I've never really been a hockey fan.
Okay.
The sports in general, but I have to say this year, like, getting into it on purpose, watching the games for the purpose of hearing the song, because we know that they've been playing our song. I don't know. It's growing on me. Starting to love it.
Actually, if you go back to our first episode, I think you and I were talking about that. I said local sports teams should be using local artists, like for either intro music or something being played during the game. So this is like it's kind of come full circle now. Like,
yeah, no kidding. That happened. I saw the video come up in my Facebook feed like a week after we had that conversation where you posted the demo and said this is coming. I'm like, holy shit, they're listening.
Good.
You mentioned that, and of course the Jets immediately started using Ramstein, which is about the least local thing we can come up with.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about the sound on the solo project. What kind of sound are you gearing towards?
Yeah, I'm kind of a blues rock guy, so I mean, like, I grew up listening to the Black Keys and the White Stripes and that kind of stuff, and then have like slowly moved more into kind of Americana, like a little more folksy singer-songwriter. So for me, that kind of blends it together. So it's like heavy on the blues, electric guitar, that kind of stuff. A little bit of an edge to it, but not quite the Jack White, Meg White. Like verging on punk aggressive duo thing.
Nice.
As far as Americana goes, I find that like that's an incredibly interesting, broad spectrum genre. Like, what exactly, like, what are some of your favorite acts inside of like the Americana umbrella?
I mean, there are lots, and it kind of ranges. But for instance, one that I love right now is Jamestown Revival.
Oh yeah,
those guys are fantastic because it's just got like a tinge of blues and a tinge of rock, but it's kind of country.
Yeah.
But it's like good country, like not country that you'd hear on like top 40 country radio.
Right, like, you know, like real Johnny Cash-esque country, right? Like,
yeah, it's like we modernized these old like titans of country music who were doing it at the beginning and like just brought it into this modern sound.
Same sort of idea as like Nick 13, who's the guitarist from Tigers, or not Tiger's Jaw, Tiger Army. The punk band, he came out with a solo Americana album too, so that's the same sort of idea, right? Like
I feel like it's having this revival. Like, there's so much of it coming out, and there's so many people doing it really, really well. Another one for me is The Lone Bellow.
Okay.
Are really, really good. They just came out with a new album, and they're doing really well.
So, like, you feel like the Americana style could kind of fly in Canada, where there's not as much of as like a non-pop country-based fan base, right? Like, do you think that you can make that work?
Well, I mean, I've been like, I used to listen to a lot of CBC radio too,
right?
And like have kind of, I try to keep my finger on the pulse of Canadian music, and I feel like Canada almost has its own version of Americana that's been going on for a long time.
Okay.
But it's just like always a little bit under the radar. It's like. Oh man, I'm struggling to think of examples now. Even like White Horse.
Oh,
is kind of
yeah.
one. There's a lot of bands like that like they're not quite Americana, but they're close enough.
Canadiana, if
maybe
you will.
it's Canadiana. Maybe it's its own
I feel like
thing.
I've heard that coin before, so that might explain it.
Yeah, it's something. It's like that stuff that's like a little country, a little blues. It's a little rock, but it's not quite rock or pop. It's not something else that you'd be hearing on Top 40.
Yeah. Another guy that kind of stands out to me with that sounds like Matt Mays.
Oh yeah, Matt Mays is a great one. Yeah, totally.
Canadian, great artist.
Yeah, and actually one that I just got turned on to recently is Adam Baldwin.
Oh yeah.
Who's like, he plays guitar with I think White Horse when they go on tour, or maybe I'm getting that mixed up, but he's got a solo album that just came out.
Like the actor Adam Baldwin, or a different Adam Baldwin?
Different, very different.
Not part of the Baldwin family.
Not the actor Adam Baldwin.
Another forgotten Baldwin.
He's not forgotten. He played Jane in Firefly, man.
Yeah.
Super important. The most important thing any of the Baldwins have ever done. Yeah, so that's really cool. I was mentioning when we were first listening that I felt that your solo stuff kind of had a real Tom Waits feel to it. I don't know if that's something that you're trying to angle for. But
that's one of those. Tom Waits is one of those great ones where like I started singing and I started like finding gigs and playing my music for people, and people were like, "You really sound like Tom Waits." And I'm like, "I've never heard of this guy." And then I listened to it. I was like, "Oh yeah." So it's almost like and it was the same thing actually with July Talk.
Oh yeah, okay,
like,
yeah.
July, someone heard my music and they're like, "You sound like you must love July Talk." And I was like, "I've never heard of that." And so it's like I sort of like come to that same sound independently, then discover them because people bring me these parallels.
Yeah.
And then
that's wild.
And then it kind of reflects back, and I like lean into it a little more.
Because
then I get I'm super into Tom Waits, super into July Talk.
Well, yeah, I mean, like if you're already creating music that sounds like that, that's something like you create music that you want to hear. So if there's already somebody that's creating music like that, it just makes sense to listen to it.
I love it.
Yeah. Versus if you go out and replicate yourself after that person, you're finding out after the fact that you sound like this person.
Right. Yeah. No, I feel like the fact that I sound like Tom Waits doesn't take away from anything because I did it independently.
Yeah.
And then, somebody else brought the parallel.
It's great. So, I mean, obviously, it's like really, it's interesting to try and find gigs in this city. Just in general, there's a lot of awesome places to gig. How do you go about kind of like? Are you the one that sets up or develops when and why you're gigging, or is that sort of like a collaborative effort?
Yeah, for me, it's. Like, I didn't grow up in Winnipeg. I grew up in Steinbach.
Okay.
And I've been living here for 5 years. So, like, when I was in high school playing with bands, like, we were playing out there, small town gigs. So I didn't really grow up in that scene of, like, having a bunch of high school friends who are all, like, in the scene now. It's totally different. So for me, it's, like, it's kind of a mixture of I'll, like, call up or email, the booking people at places like the Windsor, which is one of my favorite places to play. The Windsor is amazing.
Right on.
Just one of those quintessential dive bars. there's places like that where it's easier to get a show because as long as they're not busy, they're looking for something.
Right.
At least that's been my experience. Maybe I send them my music and say I want to play, and they're like, yeah, come on down. But then like we did the show at Le Garage a few weeks ago in January, and that was just having some friends in bands who need an opening act or need a closing act if it's a late night show. So for me, it's just like making sure that you're talking to people, you got a lot of friends, and that they know that you're looking for gigs. And, they know your music.
I think that was one of our key things we wanted to go on today, was like talking about like, as a musician, how do you go about finding other musicians and see like you talked about like going up to Steinbach and having a small group of friends that you would jam with. But if you were a solo musician going out there to find other bandmates, how would you go about it? And then like finding other bands to play with to fill up a band unite, like Garage, for example.
Yeah. I think like finding other bands to put on a bill with you or to get on a bill with is a little easier, because that's just a matter of like getting connected, whether it's on social media. It's super easy to get connected with other bands, try to share resources,
bandmates even.
Share bandmates. To me, one of the big ones has been having someone like just come down and jam, like not saying I'm looking for a keyboard player, just saying like, hey, you play music, I've got a band, you should come jam with us. And then maybe that person loves it.
Yeah,
and they join the band.
If you gel together, if it works out.
As opposed to formally looking for somebody to join your band in a certain role. I feel like it's almost like dating, like now all of a sudden you're like online dating. You're like, I've never met you before, but I hear you play the drums. Like, can you come and like play drums?
Well, he looks good on guitar, so I'll swipe right. And then I'll have to meet him in person to hear how good he really sounds.
Like those bands where like we're holding auditions, or we're trying to find we're trying to fill this one spot, and they're just putting it out there. Like, to me, that feels awkward, right?
Yep, for sure.
When I used to play this old band, we used to share a space with another drummer. This guy had every piece of equipment, played every instrument, but he could not get his band together. So every once in a while, we'd just invite him over, and we'd all just jam together and learn each other's songs.
Oh yeah.
Never really worked out in the end. We never had to call him for a show, but just having someone that could fill in for that guitar and bass at the last minute is so nice to have.
Totally, and I feel like, whatever, I'm still young and haven't been doing it for that long, but I feel like I'm seeing a lot of that lately, of like lots of bands seem to have their little section of the local music industry where they're all kind of friends. They know each other's music and they're intentional about being able to like sub in.
You have the saxophone player at Le Garage at that show that she played with three of your bands that night.
That was pretty serendipitous. She happened to be dating one of the guys in my band.
Oh, nice.
And she was like, I play saxophone.
Sure, we can incorporate saxophone.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on down.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be people either. It can be instruments. So I saw at that show a guy's guitar. He had guitar issues. I think you brought another guitar in to help him out. So I'm like, oh, this is a community. This is sharing. This is awesome.
The old ska scene used to really be like that, where like people just kind of like bump in and stuff like that. Like, this song doesn't normally have a trombone, but the trombonist from the X band is here today, so like just come on in and jam with us, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's
that makes it fun and unique.
We used to have like an extra tambourine that we give to an audience member and be like, yo, come up, you're now our new percussionist, and then I just sit out and do nothing in the back.
Nice.
Yeah. I remember doing shows in high school where like you would bring along extra pieces of a drum kit, and then we'd have a song where we'd like hand someone a tom drum with a guitar strap like bolted to it.
Nice.
It's like, just bang on this drum, walk around.
You got this.
You
got this.
Yeah, totally.
You mentioned, kind of in an odd sort of segue, you mentioned it's kind of like dating, or online dating nowadays, and so Derek and I, that was actually something we were talking about, right? Like, it's really difficult with like the online way that it works now, right? Like, there's a bunch of different ways. Kijiji, and you said Bandmix was another one.
Yeah.
Where it's like people that go on there intentionally looking for specifically a certain thing, or like attempting to hook up with other people, and
hook up being the operative word here.
Yeah. I mean, like, intentional. Trust me.
Yeah, and like something like this Bandmix site, it's kind of like, it's just like a dating website. Like, you put all your info in your bio, what you're looking for, what you do. People find you. You do, and you have to pay for it too.
Which is supposed to make sure that people are serious, but you never really know.
Yeah. So if you want to contact these people within the website, you do have to pay for the services.
Yeah.
you know, that's just like that's a bit of a deterrent to some people. Like, why would I pay for this? I can just put an ad on Kijiji, like, you know, drummer looking for guitar players on Kijiji. That's free.
Yeah.
I think it's meant for that musician that's just really sick of Kijiji at that point, because it's hard. If you've been doing it for long enough, looking for a new bassist, drummer, someone, you're always looking for something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never put out an ad like that, but I know that, like, I have friends who have, and I've sometimes perused the listings on Kijiji, and it's like, man, I don't know. I would never trust Kijiji for something like that. Like, for me, it would be Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, set the post to public and get your musician friends to share it.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's actually a really good idea. Yeah. Because, like, I don't know, like, to me, it just kind of seems like if it ends up going down the same sort of way as, like, the online dating path, all that's going to end up happening is the same sort of nonsense, right? Where you end up messaging someone and you talk to them for like a couple of weeks, and then somebody ghosts somebody, and you just are left with a giant feeling of emptiness afterwards.
Totally. I thought we had something, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and because like nobody on the internet acts like an adult anymore. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is a very good point.
Yeah.
And I've had, like, this was whatever. I won't mention any names, and it really wasn't that bad. But I've had, like, people who have brought in to jam with the band. You know, because, like, we're a pretty small 4-piece band, and it's like it'd be great to get an extra guitar player or a keyboard player or whatever. And I've had people come in and jam where, like, I just met them, I know that they're talented. I'm like, hey, like, you should come jam sometime. They're like, yeah, great. They come down, they jam. I'm like, hey, like, want to do it again next week? Nah, no, I don't know. I'm kind of busy. And
It's the worst.
Yeah.
Oh. I've been on both sides of that.
I'm like, I'm back.
I've definitely been on both sides of that, where I'm like, yeah, I'll come out and play, you know, see what it's like. But if I know going in that I never have time for another band or something's going on, I used to try and be up front. But, like, once you're in the room, there's a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. It's like being on the first date and, like, they're trying to wheel you back to their apartment. That's like, no, I just want to go home tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to go make a human burrito out of myself and watch about 20 episodes of Next Generation.
And when you say what they're being, it's like a first date and there's a lot of pressure, like, yeah, because it's the first time, it's not going to be great, like, right away.
No.
This person isn't coming in knowing what you're doing, so it's like you almost have to, like, set the bar lower or, like, facilitate some kind of a way that this is going to be easy for them.
Yeah.
Throw out the rules of first impressions.
Yeah.
Remember looking for my first singer on Kijiji, and that was an adventure. First, the guy we ended up getting didn't show up for the first time. There's some confusion in the email. We had a few other people come in that were just really nice, but really kind of eccentric in a way. There's something always off. It's like, yeah, maybe not. Yeah. And they would really like someone, then they'd be looking at us and be like, yeah, you know, maybe not. And then they just kind of, like, scuttle out the door really quickly. It's fun because you get to meet a lot of musicians, and sometimes you actually see them later down the road. It's like, oh, hey!
Yeah.
And then you...
I think that's the best thing about Winnipeg is small, so I think if you toss away technology and finding everybody, I think it's the inner networking within everybody and meeting other bands. And meeting other musicians, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes time though, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta
build that network.
Yeah. And especially after you play a few shows, you meet a few of the artists afterwards, have some beers with them, and then they will remember you, right?
Totally. Well, for me, one of the biggest things has been, and this is, like, I have no affiliation with Manitoba Music, so this isn't like a shameless plug. This is just, like, honestly, I've been a member of Manitoba Music through a few different bands and organizations over the years, on and off, and the first time I, like, paid for a membership and then didn't really go and take advantage of it, I was like, that was a waste of time and money. But the last couple times I've been, like, really spending time doing it, and like going to the like workshops that they have, going to the mixing events, and, like, really investing in it. And the amount of people you meet who are, like, there to network and there to find bandmates and there to find bands to, like, play on bills with, it's amazing. It just, like totally accelerates that.
That's a good program to have then, just in general. Like, I mentioned that before. That's an interesting new perspective. I didn't know they were that good for that.
I think John is our friend John is part of that too for a long time when he was still playing shows.
Yeah, in the early days, I think.
Yeah. He had mentioned, like, good things about it, but I had never checked out the program myself.
I think I followed it, but I don't think I ever knew there was networking involved with it.
I guess any sort of social event is just networking in some sort of way, shape, and form, right? But
it's like we're going to chat for an hour. We're going to bring in an expert. They're going to give you a 1 hour talk on something. But feel free to come early and stay late and kind of network with each other. Like that's the setup most of the time.
You end up building up a scene, I guess, of bands that you kind of like to gig with and like to hang out with. Does that, like, do you find yourself getting bored having like the same lineup or playing like the same show with the same people?
I do a bit, yeah, and I've been playing a little less over the last year, and now I'm trying to like ramp it up. Like I took a bit of a break because I wasn't sure what I was doing with my solo stuff, but yeah, like playing with the same couple of bands. I mean, I love the guys that I play with, but it would be great to like, I don't know. I think both from being in the band's perspective and from the audience perspective, you want to be able to like see some new stuff. You know, see that band that you like going to see, but then see something new as well. And then for me being in this new band that we've only been doing music for a year and we haven't really gigged, in Winnipeg seriously. It's like, yeah, I'd like to connect with some new bands which it's a totally different sound.
Yeah.
That band doesn't fit with what I was doing with solo music, so we got to find some new people.
Like finding like the right artist to play with overall takes some time too, eh?
Yeah.
That was something I thought about near the end of my last band that I actually gigged with, is just finding the right artist that sounded good with us but also complemented and contrasted.
Yeah.
So we'd find some really cool about different artists that were just totally different from what we sounded, because we're your generic rock as loud and hard as we could with as many instruments as we could type of band. And then we'd have just like the average, just like solo singer that would just kind of come in with guitar really softly and warm everyone up, and it'd be nice. And then we'd come in and be like, okay, we need more drums. Do we have drums? Okay, we need more guitar amps. Stack them. So, yeah.
It's funny that you talk about it takes time and like to like start from point A to get to point B, like all the different kind of things you'll do, all the different kind of bands you'll be in, the different sounds you'll go through. I was actually watching a documentary called Hired Guns on Netflix. And the guy who produced it actually is the lead guitar for a band called Five Finger Death Punch, so a pretty heavy metal band. And but his start is kind of interesting. Like he was asked, like I guess he was just kind of a hired gun to start with, and he was playing with Mandy Moore and Hilary Duff. Yeah, he was like playing acoustic for Mandy Moore. And then he went on tour when Hilary Duff actually had music, and Alice Cooper, I guess, saw him in the Hilary Duff band, looking at him like, this guy looks heavy metal, like he's tattooed and rocked out, does solos. He goes, I want him in my band. So he brings him into his band, and he also did projects with Vince, when Vince Neil did solo project from Motley Crue. And then he just got kind of said, no, I need to do my own thing now. Then like a buddy that he played drums with in Alice Cooper started this band with Five Finger Death Punch, and he went and saw them live. He's like, that's what I need to do. Now he's a main contributor to the band, writes his own music. But it's funny where you started from to where you get. How you go from Hilary Duff and Mandy Moore to heavy metal band. Like just the sound and the imagery just changes over time. And it's all who you meet, who you network with. And actually the cool thing about this documentary, I don't want to get too far off topic here, but Alice Cooper is like the coolest guy in music because he gives everybody a chance. He constantly rotates his band and gives everybody, all these instrumentalists, a chance to shine. And then once they go and break off and get picked up by other bands or go start their own side projects, he totally embraced it. But he's all about giving somebody a chance and moving them on.
That's actually really good.
Yeah, definitely recommend watching that documentary. It's called Hired Guns.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that there's not like, I don't know, Winnipeg being such a small place, it's like there's not a lot of bands who can sort of be that band that like that could be that.
Yeah.
In like a much smaller scale here in Winnipeg, because as soon as a band is like big enough to go outside the city, they do.
Yeah.
Nobody stays.
I mean, and like whether you like, staying is a bit of a relative term in the sense of like, are you playing a bunch of local shows, or are you still like based out of Winnipeg, quote unquote? But I mean, to me, Royal Canoe is a good example where it kind of started as a collaborative project between a couple of different bands, and then they were like, whoa, this side project is like way better than anything else we're doing, gets pretty big, starts going on tours, being successful, but like they keep coming home and getting involved with like local festivals and stuff.
Mobita Galore's the same way. They do the same sort of thing. They're like not necessarily in like the way that they came together, but they got big, and then they do a bunch of tours and stuff, but still come home and do local shows and get involved, which is really nice.
I really like to see those bands who like yeah, they get big, they break outside the Winnipeg bubble, but like kind of come back and like help to nurture the scene.
Yeah, they like help reinforce all the networks and bring new projects in.
Yeah,
just like having them at the WSO last year was insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they did the bike jam as well, which was really fun.
Yeah, yeah, and even like for the Royal Canoe, like the videos that they do is very much like tributing to their Winnipeg roots.
It's all they just no 204 left, right, and center.
Nice.
Yeah,
so they're kind of embracing the tragically hip mentality into the Winnipeg scene.
Yeah,
it's homey.
Yeah, it's homey. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey everyone, that's a wrap for part 1 of our 3rd episode. Join us next time for the 2nd half. Coming up from Steinbach, Manitoba is a new single from The Boy and the Sea called Nobody. Enjoy.